Good morning, guys. So, today we are going to talk a little bit about strictness in our programming languages. So let's get into it. You see, the other day I had this great discussion with one of my old coworkers, and we were talking about the pros and the cons of loosely typed versus strictly typed and all of this stuff. And you know, if you've been watching one of my other videos about types and so forth, that I am a big advocate of a typing system. And the thing is, I wanted to touch a little bit on this because one thing that I think is very important is to make a little bit of a distinction on when something makes more sense than something else. There was this great question on Quora the other day by this person who was talking about basically, types versus no types, and this answer was actually, it was such a great answer, where the example was basically Twitter, because Twitter started out as a Ruby shop where we used Ruby on Rails and kind of popularized that type of technology, and there was this wave of Ruby love that kind of came with that, right? And then these days they're moving over to Scala, and so that kind of spurred the question here. All right, but why are they changing this implementation? Why are they moving from Ruby and like loosely typed and like iteration speed and all that good stuff over to something more conservative like Scala, depending on your views on being conservative? Anywho, the argument, or rather the suggestion from this person was basically that at that time this was the right way to go for Twitter. When they first started out, it was the right decision to make. But now, when they're a massive super company with all these different needs and all of this, like this massive super system, having a solution such as Scala, for example, brings a lot of benefits with it. And then the person in question went kind of one further and said, well, in the beginning, not having a typing system or Scala wouldn't have been a good solution, basically, and it became a good solution. And I can agree with that to a point. But you see, what I want to get at here is that it very much depends on what you're going for when you use a programming language. I'll give you a great example of when I feel that the people who are against types are against types because either they don't understand that they always have a type, it's just that it's abstracted away from them, or they don't have a need for it. Now just hear me out now. Take JavaScript, for example. One of my favorite things to rant about is how the issue we have with numbers and calculations and all of that good stuff. And you see, this sort of problem, like the number representation in JavaScript, is a loose definition, and loose definitions are not something that can exist in the programming world. It's just something that has been provided to you and me, everybody else, so that we can do simple money calculations, but there's still an underlying logic to it, and that's what a type system is giving you. A type system is a way for you to declare the specifics of how something should work, the meaning, if you will, to why something should work in a certain way. Now, when you're building a very small system, or if you're just starting out and you're going for iteration speed, you really only need some reasonable defaults to be able to produce the value that you're looking for. PHP is another great example of this, because the application structure that you're going to build, the thing that your language is really good at building, is not necessarily something that requires this level of precision. And then on the flip side, you have things such as, say, take Rust or C or C++, where you, for the most part, are going to work, when you're using that language, you need to be very precise, because it's a big difference depending on what you want to represent. If you need a floating point number, a long or whatever, you need these types in order to be able to write the code effectively. So when you get to a certain size, you may not have need for the same sort of strictness or same type of expressiveness that you need in a system level language, but you still need a way of expressing the type. And you need that because the code has grown to such a large extent that it's very tricky for you to as I've said previously, when the system is small, it's easy to remember all the rules, all the conventions, etc., etc. But with a type system, you can actually enforce it, or you can actually express that, hey, this is not just any random string, it's this value or that value, and so forth and so forth. Now, one of the things that I love about Rust is that it has an extremely well thought out and extremely expressive and extremely strict typing system. It's actually it's actually taking me a little bit of adjustment to be this strict. Because what I mean when I say strict is that you have a type, you have to be very precise. Is this a borrowed value? Is it not? Like the expressiveness is extremely high. Now, what I want to like kind of touch on here is that when you're going for iteration speed, when you're after producing code quickly, this is not a great thing, but it should be the thing that you're after. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that at the end of the day, regardless of what language you need, what language you use, you have a underlying type system. You have to have types. You have to be precise because programming is a precise practice. You have to be able to distinguish between, saying, let's take JavaScript again. We've realized that this idea of numbers, just having a number type, it's not expressive enough anymore. It's too loose, and loose is not a good thing in programming. Strictness is the best thing, because the stricter you are, the more clarity you can achieve. It's mind-numbingly hard and annoying to have to declare like every single possible thing. You know, that's why I keep saying that loosely typed languages are just, in my opinion, a kind of nice, like an attempt to create this convenience for us programmers. I don't think that loosely typed language and scripting languages were designed to, like, and they kind of, I honestly don't think so. I don't think they make sense when you're building highly sophisticated systems. You shouldn't. And that's why I keep telling people that you need this, like, you need to think more about the software that you are writing when you come up to a certain scale, because you can't have the same assumptions. Because, as I said, for number calculations in JavaScript, we now know that, well, we have always kind of know that, we can't do that sort of programming in JavaScript because we don't have a way of effectively expressing that, hey, this is a big integer or this is a big decimal, which we need in order to do that sort of high precision, those high precision calculations. Now they are coming. JavaScript is getting these things into the standards finally, because now the scope of what JavaScript is supposed to be able to do has kind of increased, and now we're writing JavaScript in the browser, we're writing it on the server, we're using it for absolutely everything, which I think is kind of great. But we also now realized, which is the thing I want to touch on here, that this loose definition, this scripting language idea, is no longer good enough. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to keep on going that way until we have all the types that we need in order to have confidence in that the code that we are writing is working in the expected way. And that's exactly what I want to leave you with. What I'm saying is that you need to understand types if you want to be a really good software developer. It is imperative, like it's paramount that you do. If you can, absolutely, I'm not saying that you can't be a PHP developer for the rest of your life, that's okay. But if you want to write real software, the sort of software that Twitter and Google and these companies write, you need to understand typing systems, because at that sort of scale, that is a very important thing. And as I said, if even JavaScript can kind of understand that you need to have this in order to do certain things, I think that we can kind of agree that there is a value. And that's why I think you should have, like, rather that's why I find so interesting about having Rust, where I have more types than I've ever had before. And I find that although it takes me a little bit longer, and it's a little bit annoying sometimes to have to like declare absolutely every single little thing, but it's actually making the software better. Because being specific and giving everything a semantic meaning and being very precise is a good thing if you want high quality software. Have a great day.